Chapter 61. Hail Mary. Fortunately, Instructor Seraphis contracted Nightcrawler was summoned as a weapon while the spectating Nightcrawlers had their spiritual vision linked to the boundless expense instead of the spiritual bridge of darkness. Thus, no one knew of Levi's disability or tried to stop him from climbing the staircase. After arriving at the stage, Levi knew it was either the moment to create a miracle or beg for one. Levi wasn't the type to leave things to whim. Since there were millions of tiny inscriptions, Levi had to read through thousands of incantations to find the legitimate one. With all the options, he settled on this. Test thine eye, endure the blaze or go blind. Levi thought, my best chance is this one. Levi removed his sunglasses and lifted his head to gaze at the artificial sun. His thick hair hid his scorched marks perfectly, making it nearly impossible for anyone to see them. Then, Levi murmured the new incantation under his breath. Test this flesh, endure the blaze or wither to ash. He knew it was near impossible to land on the exact required incantation with the short time he had, but he also understood that if an incantation was partially correct and used close enough synonyms, it might still activate partially. While this would negatively affect his true affinity for reading, Levi couldn't care less. Right now, all he wanted was not to score 0. After a second that felt like an eternity, the stage began illuminating slowly. Levi couldn't see the difference, so he focused his ears on everyone's reaction. That's when he caught Instructor Seraphis murmuring, "Did something happen to the stage's illumination? Why is it dimmer than usual?" The instant Levi heard illumination, he lowered his head with a fake grimace and sneakily murmured the original incantation. Then, the stage's lights turned off, and Levi walked away with a disappointed expression. Levi Larson, 3 seconds, light affinity grade F, points scored, 1. With a dark expression, Instructor Seraphis announced the readings like he was being punked. Meanwhile, Melissa, Jojo, Nura, and the rest of the contract seekers stared at Levi, dumbfounded. 1 point? F grade? Even though Instructor Seraphis was the one announcing it, they felt something wasn't right. Even children could stare at the sun for more than 3 seconds. Brat, did you sign up to mess with me? Instructor Seraphis chided. Go up and give it another try. There's no need. I'm satisfied with my humble results. Levi smiled politely. Is this dude retarded? Here I thought he was a threat after that entrance stunt. Hey. The fabled F grade. I never thought I'd be blessed to witness it in my lifetime. Humble results? Many thoughts coursed through the seekers' minds as Levi returned to his group. Suit yourself. Alam Madmon, step forth. Instructor Seraphis dropped the matter and continued the trial, wasting no time on what he now saw as a lost cause. In his eyes, Levi was done. No Nightcrawler would sign someone who treated the assembly like a joke. If Levi wasn't joking and had truly scored that poorly, then it was even worse. As expected, most Nightcrawlers just laughed in amusement before shifting their attention. However, a few gave Levi an intrigued look, noticing what others had missed, and kept it to themselves. Ashkral was one of them. His unique crossed-out eye narrowed, tracking Levi until he rejoined his brother. Were the rules changed to force him into altering the luminance rights test target? He wondered. He had seen what Levi pulled off but didn't understand the reason behind it. Instructor Seraphis had announced the new rules outside the dimensional void. If telepathic communication were allowed inside Willow Grove or the Boundless Expense, Levi would have already informed his partner. But any spiritual connection would have been instantly detected. Meanwhile, this entire area was under Instructor Seraphis' absolute control. He had already banned telepathic exchanges to prevent manipulation from the spectating Nightcrawlers. While he passed this hurdle, he's bound to be exposed in the next trial, Ashkral thought. The same worry filled Levi's mind as he chatted casually with his brother and new friends about his disastrous score. Levi, did you blink by mistake? Ryan asked, confused. No, Levi replied calmly. Did your hair get in the way? Melissa pointed at the shaggy bangs covering part of his glasses. No. Then what the hell happened up there? Jojo took a deep breath to collect herself, then shifted to her monk mode. Namaste, will you kindly tell us what went wrong? The real question is, what's wrong with you? Levi thought dryly. Arthur and the others were used to her whiplash behavior. Levi, however, was still trying to make sense of it. In the end, he labeled her as bipolar and left it at that. That's just my unfortunate natural light affinity, Levi said calmly. Don't think too much about it. The trial is almost over. You heard him. No more questions. Arthur stepped between his brother and the rest, cutting off their curiosity. He could see they were about to start probing more. Fine. It's his funeral. Melissa and Ryan shrugged, letting the matter drop. They had only just met Levi. If he wanted to throw away his chances, that was on him. Meanwhile, in Shia's mansion, the three troublemakers were glued to the holographic TV, still silent. Eventually, they turned toward each other, wearing the same expression of disbelief. Does he have tiny holes on his scorched marks? Sergio offered with a straight face. Before Shia could shut down his dumb joke, a small hologram flashed beside her eye, a call from her father. She accepted it with a faint grin. Hello. Mind explaining yourself? Lord Idris asked calmly. Though he already knew what she'd done, this was their first direct conversation about it. I had to. It was tied to my perfect evolution. Shia didn't bother lying. Her father hated being bullshitted when he already knew the truth. I see. But why didn't you tell us? Lord Idris said quietly. We would have accepted anything for a perfect evolution. Shia knew he meant it. When it came to perfect evolutions, nothing else mattered. It was a one-time deal. I didn't want to risk it. Bound by contract, Shia couldn't explain further. Her father seemed to understand that revealing the details might void the deal. But we will discuss this later, Lord Idris said. You can expect your hours in the agency to double. Chapter 62. The Trial of Physicality. Before long, all the candidates had received their grades and scores, except for one. I'm hoping I've saved the best for last, Instructor Seraphis said with a hardened look, because with your shitty scores, I doubt any of you will make it past the physicality trial. Demetrius Bain, step forth. Demetrius walked through the crowded area with his hands in his pockets and an indifferent expression. Although he was Mantis's little brother, he didn't resemble him much aside from the color of his hair. It was short, dark green, and slightly messy, falling over his forehead and hiding his ears. His skin was fair, with a faint tan like he had been gently kissed by the sun. He wore a simple black t-shirt beneath a hybrid jacket, green on the inside, black on the outside, that looked like a mix between a bomber and a hoodie. On the bottom, he sported slim black sportive pants and sneakers. Strapped to his back was a long-sheathed sword, the leather dyed in a serpentine green pattern that caught the attention of many Nightcrawlers. Weapon choice mattered. Nightcrawlers had their own battle styles, and they often preferred partners who matched them. For example, a Nightcrawler who specialized in long-range combat would naturally seek a partner with a ranged weapon to maintain synergy. This was also why Shia, Sergio, and Jamal had tried to talk Arthur out of choosing a shield. They knew it would shrink the pool of interested Nightcrawlers. That's why contract seekers were asked to bring their primary weapons, to advertise their compatibility. The moment Demetrius stepped onto the stage, it was like a revitalization spell had been cast on Instructor Seraphis and the observing Nightcrawlers. Demetrius fixed his eyes on the artificial sun for 10 seconds, 20, 30, 40. Neura's pupils thinned when she noticed her record had been broken, and Demetrius still showed no signs of stopping. Just when it looked like he might surpass the 1-minute mark, Demetrius calmly closed his eyes and descended from the stage before Instructor Seraphis could even call out his score. Now that's what I'm talking about. Instructor Seraphis' smile widened with satisfaction as he made the announcement. Demetrius Bain, 55 seconds, light affinity grade SS, points scored, 200. The moment those words rang out, the contract seekers instinctively parted, clearing a path for Demetrius as they stared in a mix of awe and envy. The sea of Nightcrawlers had gone mad with excitement. Some even shouted contract offers right there and then. A swordsman with SS light affinity? I've seen enough. Sign me up now. Hearing the clamor, many candidates nearly died of envy at the idea of Demetrius securing a contract from the very first trial. Do you wish to sign a contract now? Instructor Seraphis asked. No, I'd like to continue until the end, Demetrius replied calmly. Good. Instructor Seraphis looked up. You heard him. Settle down. The Nightcrawlers quieted but kept their eyes fixed on the top candidates. Demetrius, Neura, Melissa, Jojo, anyone with an A grade or higher. This concludes the trial of light affinity. Instructor Seraphis clapped twice, and the luminance right staircase crumbled back into the earth, returning the massive platform to its bare state. Then, he projected the updated leaderboard, showing everyone's rankings from top to bottom. Demetrius claimed first place, followed closely by Neura. From the third position downward, the scores were close, but as one scrolled to the bottom of the barrel, a single name stood out like a bruised thumb. Levi Larson, 1 point. He was 20 points behind the candidate just above him, a gap so large it made even the lowest scorers feel slightly redeemed. After all, none of them had scored just one. Levi wasn't deaf. He heard the whispers, the sarcasm, the mocking tones from his competitors. But he wore the same calm smile, their words bouncing harmlessly off his fortified mental walls. The only thing on his mind was, if I want to come first, I've got a long climb ahead. There will be no break. You have 10 minutes to warm up for the next trial, the trial of physicality, Instructor Seraphis called out. Welcome to the Gauntlet of Titans. Suddenly, the floating island began to tremble. The cracked earth shook violently as massive mechanical structures burst out from beneath, accompanied by the grinding sounds of ancient gears and pistons. Steel pillars erupted like jagged fangs, forming hazardous sprint lanes. Rotating arms and gears were locked into place in a series of deadly obstacles. At the end of each lane, a sealed door stood, the entrance to a towering structure filled with narrow ledges, collapsing floors, and impossibly tight gaps that tested flexibility and balance. Beyond that, a massive hill rose at a sharp 45-degree incline, stretching more than 3 kilometers. At its peak stood resting chairs, while at its base lay 2 piles of weighted vests. But it didn't end there. Beyond the hill, the terrain twisted like rubber and dipped into a wide, gaping pit, soon filled with torrents of water gushing in from countless spouts hidden in the walls and cliffs. In mere seconds, the pit transformed into a vast artificial lake, its surface shimmering under the artificial sun. At the far side of the lake, a finish line was painted clearly on the ground, glowing faintly. The silence that fell afterward was heavy. Candidates stood motionless, their eyes wide in disbelief at the monstrous obstacle course before them. It was clear now. Instructor Seraphis hadn't come to guide them. He had come to cull them. Welcome to the Gauntlet of the Titans, Instructor Seraphis announced, his proud smirk stretching. It took me a month to visualize this beauty into reality, so I have high hopes of eliminating at least 40% of you. Gulps and murmurs spread like wildfire across the platform. The trial was designed to be brutal, and no one doubted him when he said he'd built it to thin the herd. And as expected, he didn't let ambiguity linger. I don't care what you do. Crawl, fly, cry, doesn't matter. If you don't cross the finish line in less than 2 hours, you're done. I don't care if you were first in the last trial or last in the next. 0 means eliminated. Am I understood? Yes, sir. The crowd responded in a chorus of shaken voices. Good. Now, the rules, Instructor Seraphis said, and with a flick of his pen-like device, a large hologram appeared mid-air, listing the rules one by one. The candidate's eyes scanned the text. The candidate's start timer will be based on the number of points collected. 1 second equals 1 point. Candidates are not allowed to use any form of solar totems. Candidates may use their weapons, but not against others. The gauntlet tests speed, flexibility, strength, and endurance. Each stage will be graded separately. Final points are determined at the finish line. Bonus points will be awarded for completing hidden or extra challenges. Since Levi couldn't see the holograms, and his echolocation didn't reflect light in a way that could help. He relied on Astra. Through her soft voice in his ear, she narrated the rules quietly and efficiently. Once she finished, Levi's brows drew together. I'm dead last, which means I'll have to wait over 200 seconds before I can even move. Ouch. The start timer system was brutal. With each point granting 1 second off the countdown, Demetrius would start immediately. Neura would follow after 50 seconds, and so on. When the timer reached 1, Levi would be the only one still waiting. What a harsh rule, Melissa muttered as she eyed Levi with concern. By the time you're allowed to move, the top 10 will already be halfway through. It's all right, Levi responded, giving a faint smile. At least you're taking it graciously, Ryan said, throwing a glance at a few candidates who were already grumbling and protesting the fairness of it all. Life favors the winners, Levi replied calmly. If the rules seem unfair, it just means you're not winning hard enough yet. Nearby candidates who overheard him didn't appreciate the comment, taking it as a veiled insult. But Levi didn't flinch under their glares. Neura, however, had a different reaction. She walked past Levi with a lazy, seductive smile and whispered, "For someone sitting at the bottom with a single point, your confidence is impressive. Let's just hope you're not bluffing." Before Levi could answer, she turned and sauntered toward the starting line, where Demetrius was already stretching. Arthur blinked. What does she mean by that? Levi chuckled as he tracked her retreating aura with his senses. It means she thinks I'm all bark and no bite. He smiled faintly. Let her think that. They'll all find out soon enough. Chapter 63, The Gauntlet of Titans. Enough chit-chat. Form a line based on your rankings, Instructor Seraphis suddenly ordered. I guess I'll see you guys at the finish line, Jojo said with a playful salute before heading to the front alongside Melissa. Since Arthur and Ryan had similar rankings, they were next to leave. Arthur had already tried to wait for his brother so they could take on the challenges together, but Levi declined. He told him he preferred to move at his own pace. Hearing this, Arthur gave him a fist bump. I'll be waiting at the finish line. Levi chuckled and replied, If you slack off, I might beat you there. Arthur laughed but didn't brush off the remark. He knew exactly what Levi was capable of and never underestimated him. Not for a second. That said, Arthur had also changed. Especially after his training under Lord Idris, he had become a completely different person compared to his former self in the harrowing forest. Soon after, all the candidates lined up in 4 straight rows according to their rankings. And Levi? He stood at the very end, not behind any row. Alone. It was like he didn't belong in the competition. Neither Instructor Seraphis nor the contracted Nightcrawlers spared him a second glance. To them, he was a lost cause. Even the audience watching from cafes and homes had already dismissed him. The only ones still holding onto a flicker of hope were Shia, Sergio, and Jamal. But even they knew this challenge wasn't tailored for someone with Levi's condition. No matter how sharp his hearing was or how skilled Astra was in assisting him, competing in a high-speed obstacle trial without sight seemed like a suicide mission. Logically, they weren't wrong. But Levi wasn't a normal human anymore. The trial will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2. Instructor Seraphis roared, "ONE. Begin." Whoosh! Demetrius shot forward like a bullet, sprinting at full speed through the shifting zigzag lanes. The platforms were unstable, constantly moving, and designed to throw off anyone who couldn't anticipate their changes. As if that wasn't enough, mechanized arms jutted out from the walls, throwing sudden punches meant to knock competitors into the water below. Despite the hazards, Demetrius blazed through the chaos with finesse and power, reaching the other end in no time. Cheers erupted from the viewers, and more than a few contracted Nightcrawlers stared at him with stars in their eyes. 20 seconds to finish the first stage. Speed grade, S, Instructor Seraphis noted coolly. Before Neura could be called, Demetrius was already deep in the second stage. A tight structure filled with narrow crawlways, swinging poles, and steep climbs. It was a pure test of flexibility and balance. He even struggled in spots. But he maintained his flow well enough. After 50 seconds had passed, Nura finally got the go-ahead. Though her sprint speed wasn't on Dimitris's level, she breezed through the first stage without a single misstep, dodging every arm like she had rehearsed it in her sleep. But it was in the second stage that she truly shone. She twisted, coiled, and slipped through impossibly tight gaps like a feline without bones. Some gaps even acted as secret shortcuts, ones no one else had even dared try. The crowd held its breath. It was like watching a creature born for this course. She moved so fast, she caught up to Dimitris at the base of the 5-kilometer hill despite his 50-second head start. "Let's see how far that flexibility gets you now," Dimitris muttered, strapping on a weighted vest and starting his ascent. "Unfortunately for you, I've been training these legs since I was 5. Nura smiled, picked up a vest of her own, and immediately caught up. Her skin-tight latex training suit made it clear her legs weren't just strong. They were built for power and endurance. "Bye-bye," she teased, blowing him a kiss before passing him with ease. Dimitris' expression darkened. He could have pushed harder, but he was smart enough to know there were harder stages ahead. If he wasted energy now, he might regret it later. TCH damn blackthorn monsters. He watched her pull away and knew that unless something slowed her down, she had already won this round. Meanwhile, Melissa, Jojo, and the other top candidates had begun their runs. Since their point differences were small, many started at the same time, causing chaos on the track. But that was nothing compared to the central batch. Dozens of candidates released in clusters. Arthur and Ryan were among them. "Stay behind me. I'll clear the way," Arthur shouted as he barreled forward like a freight train. "Get out of my way." The ground rumbled with his every step. Candidates who turned to see the 6 feet 5 inches behemoth charging toward them instantly panicked. Some even dove into the water on their own. Instructor Seraphis had banned weapons, but said nothing about physical contact. "Ha ha! Good job, Arthur." Ryan cheered from behind. Arthur's brute presence opened a path for those who followed him, like a snowplow clearing a clogged road. Unfortunately, even he couldn't avoid the arm punching from the side walls. The narrow lanes became a jammed mess. Candidates started dragging each other into the water, scrambling for space and survival. Arthur didn't care. He powered forward until he cleared the stage. "Now that's what I'm talking about. A juggernaut like him fits my style to perfection." Some Nightcrawlers began to take notice. Enhancement-type Nightcrawlers, in particular, were visibly interested. But others were still skeptical. They had seen plenty of meatheads before. The true test was always the second stage. However, Arthur proved them wrong. He may not have matched Nura's elegance, but he bulldozed his way through with astonishing agility, leaping, swinging, and vaulting with surprising grace for someone his size. Imagine a gorilla in motion, powerful, fluid, and relentless. Isn't he the Morningstar's sponsored candidate? I thought so. Wait a minute. Let me double-check the list. No. Arthur Larson isn't registered as a sponsored candidate. What? That can't be. He's been hanging out with their people since the start. The list doesn't lie. Melissa and someone named Levi Larson are the ones sponsored by Morningstars. Levi Larson? That's the guy with the trashlight affinity, right? Yeah. The 1-point wonder. Are you saying Madame Namer sponsored the wrong Larson? Madame Namer making a mistake? Keep dreaming. Then what's going on here? I doubt even the Morningstars know. Across every agency watching the trial, similar conversations sparked between leaders and their seconds-in-command. No one had double-checked the Larson brothers. They simply assumed Arthur was the prodigy on the sponsorship list. But now that the spotlight was on Arthur, the truth had come out. The candidate with the lowest score, the infamous F grade, the blind boy, was the one sponsored by the Morningstars. Not a single agency kept the news to themselves. They swiftly spread it across social media until Levi Larson's name and face were plastered everywhere. A scandal. Morningstar's lineage has sponsored a boy with the worst-known light affinity in the world. Was it a mistake, or was it intentional? Daywalker's Daily Media tweeted. Rumors say Lord Idris has been personally training a sponsored candidate. Could it be Levi Larson? How could he train a contract seeker with such horrendous talent? No Nightcrawler would sign him. What a waste of a recommendation letter. If I had the chance, I'd have performed 10 times better. Wekanecto, the most popular social media platform on the planet, was bombarded with posts from media companies, celebrities, daywalkers, and even everyday citizens voicing their complaints. Fortunately, the news remained confined to the Heliodor region's social media sphere. Had it reached beyond, the entire region might have become a laughingstock. As Levi once said, light was worshipped and darkness shunned in this society. In other words, light affinity had become the new beauty privilege. Those attuned to light were treated like angels, saviors, good people, talented, kind, all sorts of praise clung to them like a natural aura. Meanwhile, those with poor light affinity or mental instability were viewed as muggles, misfits, the bottom feeders of society. Whether now or a century ago, human nature hadn't changed. So, a boy no one truly knew found himself buried under a nationwide storm of mockery and insults. Unaware of any of it, Levi stood with a serene, gentle smile, using sound to paint his dark world, watching his little brother perform with pride. His truly improved, "I'm glad." While he silently cheered for his brother, no one was cheering for him, except 3 friends watching from afar. As they read through comments on their holographic screens, their expressions soured. He would have scored better if he were blind. Those F***king assholes, what do they even know? Sergio growled, fingers furiously typing replies laced with every insult he could think of. "Don't waste your time on those keyboard warriors," Shia said coldly. "Levi will shut everyone up during the trials of spirituality and intelligence." She believed in him wholeheartedly, convinced those 2 trials would be where Levi truly shone. What she didn't know was that Levi had no intention of lying low in the trial of physicality either. "Astra, alert me when it's my turn," Levi murmured, slowly walking toward the starting line. 10 seconds remained on the countdown. He was the final candidate left at the line out of over 100, and as the scandal unfolded, Instructor Seraphis found himself puzzled. He had known Lord Idris personally. They had gone on joint expeditions in years past. He knew the man's standards. Knew he would never allow the Morningstar's name to be tarnished this way. Which meant Levi might be hiding something. And so, Instructor Seraphis shifted his focus from the frontrunners to the underdog, placing Levi's face on national broadcast just as the barrage of public ridicule reached its peak. Levi set down his backup gear and rested his metallic staff on his shoulder, silencing the world around him. He tuned out the crowd, the commentary, even his own heartbeat, leaving only the sounds of the gauntlet. The hiss of shifting tiles, the hum of tensioned gears, the mechanical whine of punching arms, the echo of impact. He listened, mapped, understood. 3, 2, 1. Go! Chapter 64. Relentless, Merciless. The instant Astra's voice resounded in Levi's ear, he took off at the top of his speed on the right lane. His head was always lowered, but his movements were finer than sand. He kept jumping from one sprinting lane to the other for a split second before they shifted, saving him from falling into the water like most candidates in front of him. As for the punching arms, Levi could predict when they would push out from the faint gear noises produced inside. This made him avoid them without losing a fraction of his speed. He even bypassed the candidates holding up routes by jumping between the lanes, making him resemble a character from an old mobile game called Subway Surfer. The hell is that? By the time they reacted to what happened, Levi was already tens of meters away from them. Meanwhile, as the viewers watched Levi's peculiar sprinting form, they didn't know how to react. Everyone felt like he would bust his head into a wall or something, but Levi kept moving akin to a Black Panther. Nothing came close to touching his clothes. In the blink of an eye, Levi made it to the entrance of the second stage, and his grade results appeared on a massive holographic screen. 15 seconds, speed grade SS. Instructor Seraphis was stunned, the Nightcrawlers were intrigued, and the viewers were silenced. Levi's results ranked him above both Demetrius and Neura. While his sprinting speed was great on its own due to possessing an amazing physical state, Levi aced the first stage simply because he never slowed down once. Both Demetrius and Neura were forced to slow down due to the arms or the shifting lanes, but Levi sprinted from the start to the finish line like there were no obstacles in front of him. While this performance painted him in a different light for some viewers, many were still not convinced. Possessing an F-grade light affinity was like holding on to a massive turd. Regardless of what achievement one did, he would always be looked at as the man holding a turd. If only they knew the whole truth, their reactions might have resembled Shia's, Sergio's, Jamal's, and the ones knowing of his disability. This kind of movement, has he truly refined his other senses to such a supernatural state? Feng Ling wondered as he watched the stream on a small holographic screen. He was sitting on the ledge of a skyscraper while Maro was resting on his shoulder. Obviously, he was smoking a cigarette. He usually never bothered to watch the yearly assembly, but he didn't want to miss this one after finding out Levi had signed up. Maybe, or he has already signed a contract, Maro said. It can't be. His spiritual aura would have gotten picked up immediately by Willow Grove. Feng Ling shook his head. Plus, he isn't desirable by most Nightcrawlers, and I doubt he will sign a sleepwalker contract. Why? If he wanted to, he would have done it years ago instead of taking in their daily abuse. Feng Ling replied calmly as he gazed at Levi entering the second stage. Well, we did see many special kids born with unnatural talents unrelated to light. Mao smiled. I guess this desolate region was blessed with one. Maybe. Feng Ling said calmly. But everything still depends on the Nightcrawlers. I hope his talents catch someone's eye. Back to the trial. Levi was seen bolting across the second stage, not slowing down for even a moment. Unlike his brother, he had been training in calisthenics since he was a child, which was the key to passing the second stage. While it tested flexibility and agility, many challenges required amazing upper body and grip strength, such as cliffhanger, a thin ledge that forced competitors to traverse it using their fingertips. Many candidates ignored or gave up on this challenge, deciding to skip it altogether. Since points were scored based on the number of challenges completed, they weren't getting out of it scot-free. Every decision they made in the entire gauntlet of Titans was going to affect their final score. It was so significant that candidates might get ranked much lower than another candidate who finished the track late but managed to complete more challenges. In simpler terms, this was not a race, and Instructor Seraphis made sure to give the candidates a whole 2 hours to complete as many challenges as possible. After finishing with the cliffhanger, Levi landed on top of a blue cushion. Without lifting his head, he scanned the next challenge and pulled out his staff from its holster. It's a Salomon ladder connected to a zip line, leading to the end of the second stage. My staff will do the trick. Levi sprinted and then jumped while holding his staff above his head. Cling! The staff latched into the middle rung, allowing Levi to skip more than 4 rungs at the bottom. Then, he started to jump the staff up a series of rungs, using only the strength of his arms. Cling! 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 However, as Levi was climbing upward rapidly, his auditory vision showed him the aura of multiple candidates struggling above his head. Jump into the water. His chilling voice slithered into the ears of a hairy man in his mid-20s. As he looked down and saw that it was just Levi, he couldn't help but sneer carkily. Brat, this is my last chance to get signed. I ain't jumping for no one, especially not for you. Fine, suit yourself. Levi embraced the staff with his elbow, freeing his other hand. Without an ounce of hesitation, he caught the leg of the man and yanked his ass off the rung. Ay! The hairy man screamed with a horrified look as he fell into the water, splashing it everywhere. A second later, he popped out and cursed out Levi with 2 middle fingers. Levi continued on his climb, feeling absolutely no remorse for ruining the chances of other candidates. In his eyes, this was a competition, and he was going to do anything within the rules to achieve victory. Cling! Cling! F***CK. He is climbing so damn fast. Go up quickly. The candidates felt their ass cheeks tightening with each metallic noise they heard underneath them, knowing that when Levi got close enough, their fate would be similar to the hairy man's. Too bad, There was nothing to save them as Levi caught the next one in no time. Similarly, he tried to grab the candidate's leg. But this time, he was prepared. Get the F***CK off me. He started kicking Levi's arm, trying his best to break his fingers or something to get him off. Alas, Levi's ears had become a certified weapon. The moment he tried to go for a second kick, the whooshing noise of the wind sold its trajectory on a silver plate. All Levi needed to do was avoid the kick and grab it. The moment the candidate felt Levi's cold hand tighten around his chin, he couldn't help but gulp a mouthful in fear. Please, AAA. Splash. Another one was forced into an early swim. Mercy. Kyow. Please. I am just one rung away. Just give me a few seconds. AAA. Just like a dog on a mission, Levi was relentless in his climb, stopping for no one and hearing nothing. Whether it was a girl or a boy begging for an opportunity to complete the challenge. While it might seem merciless, Levi knew that whatever he was doing to them, it would be done to him in a heartbeat. Cling. After completing the last rung, Levi stood at the highest point in the entire structure. He found a grey boyish figure already standing there next to the zip line. He seemed to be holding onto a pile of objects. Just as Levi was about to tune out the details of the objects, the blue-haired boy threw everything in the water and held a single piece. This time, Levi saw what it was, a handlebar. Good luck getting down. The blue-haired boy smirked coldly and used the sole remaining handlebar to traverse the zip line. The hairy man and all the harmed candidates in the water couldn't help but cheer with wicked laughs after realizing what happened. That's called karma. You be *TCH. Ha ha. Watch him struggle to get down. You get what you deserve, asshole. Levi heard everyone's muffled-out curses and didn't let them affect him one bit. He had already thought of a way to finish the zipline challenge. He tapped the zip line twice with his staff to calculate its distance through sound. Then, he nodded and tightened his grip on the staff, placing its center on top of the zip line, which appeared as a long vibrational string, leading to infinite darkness. Wait, what is he doing? Before the candidates, Nightcrawlers, and viewers could react, Levi had already taken the leap of faith. Sparkles flew everywhere as the metallic staff kept grinding against the steel zip line. Yet, Levi ate them up while his circular sunglasses protected his non-existent eyes, creating a fascinating scene that left many viewers staring with widened eyes. Meanwhile, when the blue-haired boy landed on the cushion at the end line, his ears picked up on the grinding noise behind him. What the F***CK? As he turned around and saw Levi coming in hot, his face drained of color as he swiftly got away from Levi's way. The handlebars had a brake mechanism, but Levi had no such thing. Before Instructor Seraphis could wonder how he was going to slow himself to land on the cushion, he was left stunned at the sight of Levi letting go of one side of the staff way before he was under the cushion. But, due to his insane momentum, Levi timed it perfectly, landing akin to a cannonball straight on the cushion. A second later, Levi's head popped out of the cushion, and he sprinted past the shell-shocked blue-haired boy, heading directly to the weighted vests. His score appeared again on the hologram, catching everyone by surprise. 2 minutes, all challenges completed, SS grade. What the hell am I witnessing? Jamal murmured with a dazed tone, feeling like he was spectating a different Levi. I knew based on his training he was going to do good, but I didn't know he would be this good. Shia was also left astonished. If it wasn't for the second stage being more crowded, he would have definitely scored much better. Jamal nodded. It's Astra AI, she must be giving him full details of his environment, and by utilizing his enhanced senses, he is moving as smoothly as butter. Bleeder commented from inside Shia's jacket. Most likely. Everyone nodded in agreement as they knew that no other explanation could describe Levi's insane movements. None of them bothered to consider Levi getting signed, as they also knew that Willow Grove would have snitched on him instantly. Uninvited daywalkers or sleepwalkers could not enter Willow Grove without alarming it. It was considered impossible, as its spiritual presence could detect even Tier 8 Nightcrawlers attempting to suppress their auras. If even those monsters couldn't pull it off, how could anyone expect a child to? Meanwhile, inside the Blood Hunters Agency's headquarters, Lord Idris and Madame Naima were also taken aback by Levi's performance. Marvelous, not a single movement wasted. Lord Idris praised. But how? Didn't you tell me he is blind? How can a blind boy move in such a manner? Madame Naima was astonished. It defies all logic. Chapter 65. Giving out a hand. My assumption is Astra AI and superhuman senses, Lord Idris replied. I've met him, his spiritual prowess alone was on a different plane of talent. Wait, don't tell me he's an Ano. We're about to find out. Lord Idris cut her off, not wanting to indulge in speculation when the truth was unfolding before their eyes. After Levi arrived at the area with the weighted vests, he noticed that the hill was packed with candidates, most carrying only a single vest. Since the participants were mixed, the vests were divided into 3 categories. Light, 4.5 to 9 kilograms, moderate, 9 to 18 kilograms, and heavy, 18 to 36 kilograms. Everyone was free to choose whichever they wanted. The points are scored based on one's body weight in correlation with the lifted weight. That's fair to everyone, but not to Arthi, Levi thought, shifting his focus to find his little brother with echolocation. Sure enough, he spotted Arthur struggling. He had a heavy vest strapped to his back while giving a piggyback to another 4 moderate ones. He didn't look comfortable in the slightest. While this weight was already insane in the eyes of most viewers and candidates nearby, Levi knew his brother could lift much more if his form was better suited. This trial is his best shot at scoring the highest number of points. Without hesitation, Levi loaded up a heavy vest on his torso, then placed 2 medium vests and 2 light ones on the ground. What's he doing? Don't tell me he's about to carry all of that up a 5-kilometer slope. How? Wait, is he loading the weight onto his staff? That's insane. Under the stunned gazes of viewers across the region, Levi lifted his loaded staff and rested it across the back of his neck. With a slightly hunched posture, he started up the slope, resembling an old village granny carrying half her body weight on a mountain trail. Breathe in, breathe out. Levi kept his breathing controlled, sinking each breath with every step. His thighs and calves tensed with effort, tightening to their limits. Still, he moved faster than many candidates who had to stop to catch their breath. Arthur was one of them, but not because of exhaustion. He had paused to fix the positioning of the vests. Goddamn it, can this be any more uncomfortable? Arthur grumbled, resisting the urge to toss a few vests aside and sprint to the top. He knew that would cripple his point tally. As he crouched to adjust the vests, his eyes caught a metallic gleam below. When he squinted to get a better look, his eyes lit up. Big bro. He had expected Levi to catch up eventually, but not this fast. Not when he had more than a minute's head start. Levi, he shouted, waving wildly, uncaring of the looks he received. Arthur, meet me halfway. Hearing Levi's voice, Arthur didn't hesitate. He dropped the vests and charged downhill, assuming his brother needed help. Thankfully, only 500 meters separated them. Once they met, Arthur took the metallic staff off Levi's shoulders without question. I brought this extra weight for you. Levi wiped the sweat from his forehead. Fill the staff with the remaining vests. That way, you can carry everything at once. Ha ha, just what I needed, Arthur grinned. It's not a deadlift bar, but it'll do. Let's move. Levi gave a slight nod, and together they jogged back to retrieve the vests. Jackpot. Quick, grab them before the hunk returns. Elsewhere, 2 candidates attempted to steal Arthur's vests. One was a burly man in his 20s with a thick beard. The other, a fair-skinned blonde teenager. They knew the scoring system awarded points based on the carried weight at the finish line, not how far it was carried. Many were already abusing this loophole, ambushing others near the end of the slope to steal their vests and inflate their scores. Instructor Seraphis observed it all and said nothing. In his eyes, the vests weren't just weights, they were currency. And if you couldn't protect your money, that was your problem. Big bro, they're stealing my vests. Arthur's voice was laced with fury. Levi honed in on the thieves using echolocation and said coldly, No one steals from the Larsons. He shifted from a jog to an all-out sprint, still weighed down, but accelerating with brutal intent. Arthur matched his brother's energy and charged forward without hesitation, as if he weren't carrying over 100 kilograms on his back. In moments, they closed the distance. The two thieves were visibly struggling with just 2 vests each. Hearing Arthur's thundering steps, they looked back and paled. Crap! The hunk's coming. Run, bro. Run. I can barely walk. Drop the vests. Realizing escape was hopeless, they flung the vests away and tried to flee. But it was too late. Levi emerged from behind Arthur like a predator. Silent, swift, deadly. He caught the bearded man by the back of his shirt and slammed him to the ground with a thud. Ah! Noah! The blond boy cried out. He turned to see his brother unconscious, with Levi removing the vest from his chest. You bastards! The boy snarled. We already dropped the vests. Did you really have to eliminate my brother? This was his last chance to get contracted. Vicious. Levi echoed, tilting his head. He stepped closer, calm and cold. The boy instantly dropped into a fighting stance. If I wanted to be vicious, I would have eliminated both of you, Levi said flatly. He extended his hand. If you care about your brother's chances, hand me your vest. The boy hesitated, then glanced at his brother's motionless body and understood. Without a word, he tossed the vest at Levi's feet and rushed back to wake Noah. Levi took the vest and helped Arthur load it on the staff. Soon, it vanished under the pile of weight. When Instructor Seraphis and the Nightcrawlers counted the vests on Arthur's shoulders, they realized he was carrying over 200 kilograms. What a jaw-grunt. Is this brat still a teen? His strength is abnormal for someone his age. I can't believe I found a jackpot in such a deserted region. The Nightcrawlers checked Arthur's participation details and couldn't help but feel astonished at his ludicrous strength, age-wise. Now that's the good stuff. Arthur beamed as he hoisted the load like it was a barbell, then started up the slope, the grin never leaving his face. For him, this wasn't a trial, it was a workout. I'm taking your shield. Bring my staff to the finish line in one piece. Levi tapped his brother on the chest, grabbed the shield, and took off for the top of the hill. Watching it all unfold, the blonde thief realized Levi had done everything, risking his own points, for his brother. His resentment slowly evaporated, replaced by admiration. With renewed determination, he lifted his brother onto his back and began his climb, one step at a time. Meanwhile, Levi reached the slope's peak, carrying only one heavy vest. Though exhausted, it would have been far worse had he carried everything himself. He wasn't a musclehead like Arthur, he had his own limits. As for the other candidates, none dared antagonize him now. Not after what they witnessed. Levi knew they wouldn't mess with Arthur either. Bullies only targeted the weak. And those fools understood. They wouldn't walk away unscathed if they touched his brother. Nura and Demetrius already crossed the silent lake and made it to the finish line. I may need to go all in if I want to beat them. Standing at the trial's highest point, Levi sent out a series of echolocation pulses, scanning the landscape. Below was a steep hill, followed by a shimmering, quiet lake. Most of the top 10 were already swimming across, racing toward the finish. Others sat at the edge, panting in exhaustion, completely spent. They had burned too much energy and now hesitated to swim the last 100 meters. With 2 hours total to complete the trial, no one dared enter until they'd recovered. Levi noticed that those descending the steep hill were doing so slowly, careful not to fall. The slope wasn't just for show. It tested balance and control. But Levi knew that going slow would cost him. By the time he reached the lake, the top spots would be gone. He'd already spent 3 minutes thinking through each stage of this trial. He didn't grab Arthur's shield just for the giggles. He needed it. This could go badly, but screw it. Chapter 66. Embracing the YOLO Spirit. Levi adjusted his grip on the circular shield. It wasn't designed for this. It wasn't made for what he had in mind. But in that moment, with a steep slope ahead and time slipping through his fingers, It was his only shot at stealing back the lead. He crouched near the edge, tightening his core, calculating the angle through echolocation pings bouncing off the terrain. The slope was long, steep, crude. Grass and dirt patches made it rough, but not rough enough to slow him down if he committed to it. Behind him, candidates were still pushing their way up with vests weighing down their backs. Below, others took careful, measured steps, praying not to trip. Further down, the lake shimmered in the sun. A calm surface masking the chaos of bodies cutting through it in a frantic race to the finish. Levi dropped the shield flat on the ground, placed his staff tightly across his back, and lay down on his stomach, arms gripping the edges, legs tucked in like a missile preparing for descent. "You only live once," he muttered under his breath, embracing the YOLO spirit. Then he shoved off. Whoosh! The wind screamed past his ears as the shield picked up speed. Vibrations rattled through the metal, singing across his bones, but Levi's grip stayed firm. Grass tore beneath him, dirt exploded to his sides, and the world narrowed into one deafening tunnel of wind and friction. What the hell is that? Is he riding a shield? Someone stop him before he kills himself. The audience couldn't believe it. Neither could the candidates, who watched Levi blaze past them like a bullet fired from a cannon. 1 second, he was a speck above, the next, he was gone, screaming down the hill with zero hesitation. Some of them flinched as he zipped by. T. He nearly clipped my leg. Is he insane? He's going too fast. Levi didn't hear any of it. His world was sound and momentum. He used the howling wind and vibrations under the shield to keep track of terrain changes, every bump, shift, and tilt painted in his mind like a 3D map. He leaned left, dodging a jagged rock. He pulled slightly right, sliding past a crouched girl clutching her knee. He even bypassed Ryan, leaving him to stare at his back speechlessly. He always believed himself to be a daredevil who had no problem with any sort of stunt. But, as he gazed at Levi nearing the lake, he realized that a new daredevil was in town. Then, the slope ended. The lake arrived. Instead of slowing, Levi let go of all caution. He launched off the slope's end, shield and body airborne for a split second, and slammed into the lake's surface with a massive splash. But the shield didn't stop. Levi made sure to keep his head lowered to avoid disrupting the shield's aerodynamics. As long as he remained one with it and his body straight as an arrow, his calculations promised the shield wouldn't sink. As expected, it skimmed across the water like a flat stone, skipping once, twice, then gliding smoothly as if the lake had frozen just for him. The force of his entry sent waves rippling in every direction, soaking nearby swimmers, who looked up in awe and panic. Levi! What the F***C, Naymast. Wow, he's riding the water. You can do that. Even Jojo and Melissa, who were already halfway across, paused mid-stroke to look over their shoulders at him. Levi kept his body tight, every inch of him clinging to the shield as it sliced through the lake. The friction was real, the drag intense, but his momentum didn't let up. He adjusted his weight once more, slightly forward, just enough. The shield hit the final patch of shallow water and launched him one last time, straight toward the finish line. Thump! Levi rolled off the shield and landed in a crouched position across the edge of the finish line. He was gasping, drenched, but with a faint, almost smug smile etched on his face. The holographic board flickered above him a second later. Levi Larson, Performance Recap. First stage time, 15 seconds grade, SS. Second stage time, 2 minutes grade, SS. Third stage time, 17 minutes grade, S. Fourth stage time, 20 seconds grade, SSS. Final score, SS plus final rank. First place. Silence. The crowd didn't cheer, not yet. They were too stunned, too confused, too damn speechless at what they just witnessed. A second later, cheers erupted. He actually did it. Jamal nearly dropped his holographic screen. Dear Lord, I knew he was good, but not this good. Sergio blinked twice before letting out a wide, wicked grin. Someone go collect every single hater's address. I got time. Shia's arms were crossed, but a quiet smile touched her lips. The kind that didn't need celebration, just satisfaction. Told you. He's not just good. He's Levi. Even Bleeder popped in his weapon form out of Shia's jacket and clicked excitedly. Did you see how he used the shield to slide on water? I always knew he had it in him. In the audience, chaos erupted. Cheers. Screams. Shocked gasps. A wave of noise crashed through most gatherings in the streets, cafes, and restaurants. We just witnessed history. He beat Nura and Demetrius with close to 3 minutes head start. People weren't just stunned, they were unmoored. The very foundation of what they believed about talent, about power, about who deserved to win, was just flipped upside down by a boy they had mocked online hours ago. And then, the Nightcrawlers reacted. Not one of them spoke right away. Some narrowed their eyes. Some simply stared at Levi's, rewinding the footage in their minds. The monsters of the Heliodor region, those who prided themselves on sensing potential from the first heartbeat, had missed something big. One of them chuckled lowly. That shield slide, who taught him that? Another muttered, it wasn't a trick. He read the terrain perfectly and committed with everything. You have seen how he moved, evaded bumps and such. It's like he has a radar installed in him. That was real battle instinct. A dark-furred Nightcrawler with glowing green eyes narrowed her gaze. His body is decent. His light affinity is questionable. But his application, his control, it's terrifying. Meanwhile, Instructor Seraphis stared at the result, then glanced at the slope, the lake, then Levi, who was casually squeezing water out of his jacket while walking in the direction of Demetrius and Nura. Someone actually did it. What kind of candidate have you sent me? Seraphis muttered, Lord Idris' face surfacing in his mind. Chapter 67. A Fun Little Wager. After Levi arrived next to his rivals, he sat down and asked with his usual unprovocative smile, Is there a towel or something? Nura stared at him speechlessly for a moment before uttering, You are actually crazy. Crazy? He is a cheater. That's what he is, Demetrius scoffed. He wasn't impressed in the slightest with how Levi passed the 4th stage. Maybe he was jealous of his score. Maybe he was embarrassed at being bumped to 3rd place after Levi snatched rank 1 from Nura. Or maybe, he genuinely believed there was no decent way to pass a stage where endurance and stamina were supposed to be tested. Whatever it was, Levi didn't even bother to respond. In his mind, it wasn't up to him to dispute an accusation. Yet, to his surprise, Nura was the one backing him. Aren't you being a bit of a sore loser? Nura narrowed her eyes in displeasure. Instructor Seraphis told us we could use whatever means necessary to reach the finish line, as long as we respected the rules. Yes, and the rules were put in place to ensure our stats get measured accurately, Demetrius retorted. In what universe does a triple SSS count when he slid across the lake instead of swimming it like we did? How is that his problem? Nura frowned. I'd like to believe that discovering loopholes within rules should be rewarded, not punished. It's a sign of intelligence, not cheating. If you think otherwise, you're just being a hater. I know for a fact you would have done the same if the idea had come to you. Me? I don't need to abuse the rules to come first. Demetrius sneered, refusing to back down. If only the viewers and Nightcrawlers thought the same way, he wouldn't be getting grilled on the networks and across the shadow dimension. That's one of the coolest trial finishes I've witnessed in a long, long time. If what he did counts as cheating, then you might as well cancel the assembly. No sane Nightcrawler will see wrong in what the boy did, one of the Nightcrawlers commented out loud, his voice as rough as an unpolished diamond. Is that? Levi immediately lifted his head, recognizing the voice as belonging to the crystallized black rhino he had met during his shower. He couldn't help but smile at the support, sensing that the rhino said it to repay him for showing him the way. The Nightcrawlers and viewers backed up the rhino's claim with overwhelming support, even though they knew Levi's trashlight affinity would make any result he pulled obsolete in the end. Instructor Seraphis, it's your call. Demetrius reached out to the silent overseer above them, realizing no one was on his side in this matter. He knew deep down that he was right. He believed that if Levi's results were accepted, the stat accuracy would become meaningless, as an SSS would equate to an F. Unfortunately for him, Instructor Seraphis knew what he was doing when he designed the Gauntlet of Titans. He silenced the Nightcrawler's ruckus with a thought and said calmly, "Levi Larson's final score is legitimate." The moment Demetrius and his older brother Mantis heard this, their expressions turned dark. While Mantis cursed at the TV screen from beside his agency's companions, Demetrius kept his emotions in check and asked for clarification. Did any of you ever wonder why Larson succeeded in traversing the lake in one slide? Why was it even possible, considering that many hurdles should have made it impossible? Why did I leave resting chairs at the top of the slope in the middle of a competition? Instructor Seraphis asked. With each question fired, Demetrius, Neura, and even the viewers felt their pupils narrow as the realization struck. Instructor Seraphis wanted them to do exactly what Levi did. Even Levi was somewhat taken aback. He hadn't expected the instructor to incorporate the slide into the trial's design. But when he thought about it more closely, everything was too perfect to be a coincidence. The shallowness of the water, the steepness of the hill, the smooth grass field, the launching area between the hill and the lake. Everything had been constructed precisely to make the slide viable, but only for those with the guts and skills to attempt it. While Levi had done his part to ensure success, he now realized none of it would have been possible if the conditions hadn't aligned so seamlessly. Instructor Seraphis, he's the real deal, Levi thought, gazing at the instructor's contained golden spiritual aura with admiration. You thought I was testing your endurance or balance with the fourth stage, but in reality, it was to test your adaptability, Instructor Seraphis continued. Why do you think you scored only an A grade? It can't be. Demetrius mumbled in disbelief. The viewers were equally stunned, but some daywalkers familiar with Seraphis' teaching methods weren't surprised. His tests always had curveballs. They just hadn't expected one like this. One more note. Stats accuracy means nothing to me. Besides light affinity, I couldn't care less about your scores. I have my own eyes to judge, and so do the Nightcrawlers, Instructor Seraphis added indifferently. Or have you forgotten your original reason for entering this assembly? No. Then why are you focused on stats instead of delivering your best performance, regardless of what the rules say? As he spoke, Demetrius lifted his gaze toward the thousands of eyes looming in the sky, watching his every move like hawks. Possessing a great light affinity is a good start, but it's not what gets you far in life. It will get you signed, yes, but not by Tier 4 and higher Nightcrawlers. Those monsters only commit to a partner when they know he's not a one-gift wonder, Instructor Seraphis concluded, then looked directly at Demetrius. So tell me, are you a one-gift wonder? A one-gift wonder referred to children born with amazing light affinity but no other redeeming qualities. While that might land them a contract, their path as a daywalker could be even harder than someone with lesser talent. After all, light affinity was mainly about eye resistance to light, not combat effectiveness. No, sir. Demetrius shook his head firmly. Then keep your mouth shut next time and work harder in the upcoming trials. That was Seraphis' final word before he drifted away to observe the rest of the candidates. He only said this much because the others couldn't hear. He would never compromise the competition's integrity. After the instructor departed, Demetrius approached Levi and said quietly, "My apologies, it seems I wronged you." "Don't sweat it. It happens," Levi replied with a kind smile. Demetrius gave a respectful nod and walked away to sit elsewhere. "You think he apologized sincerely?" Neura asked, crossing one leg over the other. "Not in a million years." Levi shook his head, listening to Demetrius' heartbeat. He could feel the boiling rage inside, tightly controlled, but very much alive. This whole episode had humiliated him. He hadn't just been proven wrong. He'd been scolded in front of Nightcrawlers and his entire home region. "I think so, too." Neura giggled. "You are definitely in his crosshairs." "What are you giggling for?" Levi chuckled. "He might be coming for me, but I'm coming for you." "Oh, is that so?" Neura smiled seductively, but Levi didn't spare her a glance. "I'm afraid this trial was your last chance to widen your lead," Levi said calmly. "From here on out, all you'll see is my shadow." He said it loud enough for Demetrius to hear, and didn't care. He was that confident in the trials to come, the ones where his true talents would shine. "It seems you're underestimating me," Nura teased. "How about a fun little wager to spice things up?" What do you have in mind?" Levi acted surprised, though he was grinning inwardly. This was the reaction he wanted, the reason he even approached her. "Since you're so sure you'll catch up and steal my leaderboard rank, how about we bet some solar Aegis coins?" "How much?" "Name your price." "I have deep pockets," Nura replied. Levi didn't doubt her. The Blackthorn family was known as one of the wealthiest in the Northern Africa district, even wealthier than the Morningstars. Their assassination services were paid almost exclusively in solar Aegis coins, the most valuable currency in the world. "How about the prize money, plus 2,000 solar Aegis coins?" Levi suggested. He only had 1,000 in hand. Arthur held the other half. But Levi didn't hesitate to bet everything to swindle even more from Nura. Nura didn't flinch. "Sounds interesting. Let's do it." She extended her thin, smooth hand, and Levi shook it without even turning his head. While his peculiar manner intrigued her, she never imagined he was blind. Neither did the instructor, nor the Nightcrawlers, nor the viewers. After what he'd done in the Gauntlet of Titans, no one in their right mind believed Levi was visually impaired. And Levi knew it. He also knew that going high-profile carried the risk of someone discovering the truth during the week-long assembly. But he didn't care. Since Ashkral promised that no one would uncover their contract and that he would handle the fake signing procedures, Levi saw no reason to stay low profile. He understood that to be signed by Ashkral without raising suspicions, he had to overperform. Signing a blind candidate was considered suicidal in most eyes. Levi had to convince the world that his other qualities were so overwhelming that even blindness couldn't hold him back. In his mind, it was far easier to explain future miracles under the spotlight than in the shadows. Suddenly, Demetrius returned and requested calmly, "Is it possible to be added to the wager?" "Well, of course," Levi said with a wide, kind smile. "The more, the merrier." Chapter 68. The New Leaderboard. "Can you afford it, though?" Nura sized him up and down, making Demetrius' expression turn cold for a moment. "Why haven't you asked him that?" "He set the price, and I don't think he would have done so without having the necessary funds." Nura smiled at Levi, who nodded in agreement. "I can afford it." Demetrius narrowed his eyes at Levi. "I can even add another wager if you're interested." "Oh? Why are you addressing him alone?" Nura pouted. "I want to join too." "This isn't a wager for either of us, but just for people like him," Demetrius smirked. "I bet that you won't get signed by any of those Nightcrawlers at the end, even if your ranking is in the top 10. Nura covered her mouth with a hand in intrigue. She maintained her silence and stared at Levi, awaiting his response to such a kick under the belt. "State your price." Levi smiled. "The discount reward," Demetrius said. "If I win, you'll hand over the training center discount in case you rank in the top 5. If not, you'll pay me 1,000 solar Aegis coins." "I assume the same applies to you?" Levi asked. "Yes." "Seems fair." Levi smiled. "We have placed these wagers under the watchful eyes of Nightcrawlers and viewers." Demetrius narrowed his eyes at Levi. "I would like to assume that you won't be foolish enough to renege on it later once you lose." If it were up to him, he would have used nocturnal contracts to ensure that no one dared go back on their word. But since nocturnal contracts could only be summoned by those with seeds, he was stuck with using the viewers to pressure Levi. Unbeknownst to him, Levi was the one fearing that Demetrius might go back on his word. "How about this? We'll swear it on our sponsored agency's names," Levi suggested. "I don't know how you swindled your way into the Bloodhunters agency, but fine by me. I'll take you on that." Demetrius gave a slight head nod in agreement and walked away. He understood that swearing a bet on their agencies' names implicated them in case a problem arose with the payment. Since they did it on national TV, it meant their agencies would do everything to protect their reputation, even if it meant paying the loser's debt. When Shia saw this, her eyelids couldn't help but twitch in vexation. He hasn't even taken a step inside the agency, and is already using our name as backup. This prick will get me kicked off the family once and for all. An hour later, the trial of physicality was concluded, and many of the surviving candidates were either sitting on the grass or vomiting against a tree. At least they made it out, unlike many others who had been eliminated either due to injuries or exhaustion. They were already sent outside of Willow Grove's dimensional mirror. It's time to update the leaderboard rankings, Instructor Seraphis announced. Everyone lifted their heads and gazed at the massive holographic screen with their names on it. The names of the eliminated candidates began turning dark while the rest shuffled among each other. On the far corner, points were added at varying speeds. A few seconds later, the new leaderboard was finalized, stealing everyone's breath away. 1. Neura Blackthorn, 400 points. 2. Demetrius Bain, 398 points. 3. Arthur Larson, 392 points. 4. Levi Larson, 381 points. 5. Huda Omari, Jojo, 290 points. 6. Melissa Harper, 240 points. 7. Omar Mansour, 190 points. 8. Celine Orstris, 150 points. 9. Kira Joan, 149 points. 17. Ryan Morningstar, 122 points. 2 names were noticeably out of place amongst the top 10, Arthur and Levi. One was in the middle of the rankings before and moved straight to 3rd rank, while the other was at the very bottom of the list and now became the 4th highest ranked. When Demetrius saw how many points Levi earned in one trial, he couldn't help but grit his teeth behind sealed lips. Since Levi had a measly 1 point prior, it was easy to calculate that he had earned 380 points from the trial of physicality. Although he wasn't ranked first in the overall standings, he had earned the highest possible amount of points. The surprising part, Arthur was the second. I came 3rd and you came 4th. Arthur grinned as he fist-pumped his brother. Good shit. I couldn't have done it without you. It was all you. Levi smiled while sheathing his black staff in its holder. Although he had assisted his brother on the 3rd stage by bringing more weight and even handing over his staff, Levi had no interest in taking credit. After all, if they hadn't traded weapons, he would have wasted more time thinking of ways to slide off the hill, which could have affected his final results. The next 2 trials will be held tomorrow morning. Feel free to relax and tend to your wounds in your rooms, Instructor Seraphis announced while clapping his hands. Following the noise, the gauntlet of the Titans began collapsing, stage by stage, as if buried explosives were set off beneath it. A cloud of dirt covered the platform, forcing some candidates to shield their faces. It lasted only a few seconds before it dissipated into the void. But instead of revealing a desolate space, a massive standardized apartment complex sprouted from the ground. The apartment complex resembled a sand prison, yellow and dreadful. It had windows and doors, but it was not as welcoming as the buildings they were used to staying in. Stop giving me those looks. You should feel blessed I haven't lodged you in tents, Instructor Seraphis said coldly, noticing the displeasure on some faces. Immediately after, everyone forced on satisfied smiles, fearing he might go through with it. Your room number is the same as your rank. You'll find everything you need in your rooms. Don't cause any trouble. I have you all under my radar. With that last warning, Instructor Seraphis exited the boundless expanse, leaving the candidates with the staff members. Of course, he kicked out the spectating Nightcrawlers, returning the void to its peaceful state. He couldn't risk letting them linger around the candidates. He knew they wouldn't hesitate to manipulate or seduce them. As for the live stream, he disconnected it the moment he left. Unlike other instructors, he had no interest in keeping a 24/7 feed of the candidates. In his eyes, this wasn't a reality TV show. Although he disconnected the stream, he restored network access so candidates could pass the time. Immediately, everyone logged into WeConnect to check the latest news and reactions about their performances. Alas, many were disappointed when they saw that only Nura, Demetrius, Levi, and Arthur were going viral. Is it weird if I admire Nura's figure even though she's still technically a minor? Seek help. From 1 point to 381. Insanity. Even though he had a 3-minute delay and was more than 150 points away, he still made it to the top 5. I see now why the Morningstars sponsored him. If only he had scored an average in the light affinity trial, he would have been the first ranker. Such a shame. Don't sleep on his giant brother. The dude carried more than 200 kilograms on a 5-kilometer hike. None of you can comprehend how difficult that is. While their performances are amazing on their own, at the end of the day, Nura and Demetrius possess the highest light affinity. The network buzzed with tweets, hashtags, and clips of the 4 candidates. Yet, the highest-rated one belonged to Levi's hillslide and water glide. Citizens were already used to daywalkers performing wonders. Yet, Levi's clip still farmed the most likes and attention, surpassing some famous daywalker celebrities. The people simply loved it when one of their own did something noteworthy. It made them feel represented in a merciless era dominated by daywalkers and nightcrawlers. Big bro, we're trending. Arthur grinned widely as he read the positive comments about him and his brother. I see. Levi gave an unbothered smile. While it felt good to be recognized, Levi never chased fame. He understood that chasing it was like chasing an endless hunger. It could never be satisfied. So, he welcomed it, but didn't give it much thought. However, the same couldn't be said for the other youthful candidates dreaming of becoming famous daywalkers, basking in public praise. Some were on this path for that reason alone. Believe it or not, Demetrius was one of them. Where did this bastard crawl from? Demetrius glared at Levi coldly. I was supposed to have the best rookie debut. Everyone was going to talk about me, and only me. Sensing the glare, Levi turned and gave him his usual serene, kind smile. A look that would have melted any petty grudge. But not Demetrius. It only made him angrier. Just wait. This will be the last time you steal the spotlight. Enjoy it while it lasts, he murmured icily, heading toward the apartment complex. He thought no one heard him, but Levi's weaponized ears caught every word. I kinda feel bad for him, Levi sighed inwardly. He's in for a world of disappointment. Chapter 69, Figured Out. After Instructor Seraphis exited the boundless expense, the first thing he did was contact his old pal, Lord Idris. He hadn't made a scene about Levi's situation earlier, but now, after realizing that the boy might be the real deal, he needed to figure out what was going on. A couple of rings later, Lord Idris emerged as a holographic figure in front of Seraphis. Will you look at that? Lionheart reaching out on his own? What kind of sorcery is this? Lord Idris joked, his tone and demeanor nothing like when Levi met him. You old barbarian. You know I retired that name decades ago. Instructor Seraphis smiled, his hand resting on the sun amulet near his belt. A shame, truly. Lord Idris sighed, visibly displeased with Instructor Seraphis' decision. But at the same time, he understood the reasons behind it. What do you mean? It's a shame. If I hadn't retired, the streets would have been packed with good-for-nothing daywalkers. Instructor Seraphis chuckled. I'm doing your region a great favor, you know? Don't say that, Lord Idris said solemnly. This is your second home, not my region. I wish it were that simple. Instructor Seraphis forced a half-smile. But soon, he cut straight to the point. Idris, I called about that young boy. He said curiously. Just what the hell happened? It's nothing much. My daughter swindled a recommendation letter for the boy. Lord Idris chuckled. We handed it to her, believing she was going to recruit Arthur, but in reality, they were all in on it to ensure that boy entered the assembly. Why go through all that trouble? Aren't they brothers? Isn't getting one sponsored the same as sponsoring both? Seraphis asked, confused. That's the thing. Levi Larson isn't allowed to join the assembly through normal procedures. How come? Does he have a criminal record? No. Lord Idris dropped the bomb. He's blind. His what now? Instructor Seraphis tilted his head in disbelief, thinking he must have misheard. Blind? The idea just wouldn't register. Alas, Lord Idris doubled down. Yes. As shocking as it sounds after witnessing his performance, it's the truth. You mean legally blind? Is that why he wears glasses? Are they prescribed? No, he's blind. But he can see some things? Like tunnel vision or a Seraphis, he has no eyes. Well, that did the trick. Silence fell over Instructor Seraphis as tens of Levi's moments replayed in his head. When he now looked at them through the lens of blindness, his behavior suddenly made sense. The way his head never truly faced forward. The fact that no one had seen his eyes, not even once, as they were always hidden behind sunglasses or thick bangs. Then, he recalled how Levi had scored 1 point in the trial of light affinity. Impossible. If he had no eyes, the luminous right wouldn't have activated. Rewatch the tape and you'll understand what he did to pull off that measly 1 point everyone's mocking. Seraphis requested Ustra AI to replay the footage of Levi standing on the luminous right. This time, he focused solely on Levi. When he saw the boy mutter something under his breath, and then watched as the right's light weakened, his pupils narrowed. Don't tell me. Yep, Lord Idris confirmed. To avoid instant elimination from your new rule, the boy must have figured out the right incantation to activate the luminous right. Then, he analyzed it and used an incantation that tested his body instead of his eyes. No wonder he scored 1 point and refused to retry. The incantation must have been partial, only activating a portion of the right. Instructor Seraphis was stunned. Everything finally started to make sense. But instead of feeling settled, he was dragged into a storm of new questions. Why would a blind boy participate in the assembly? How could he move like that with no vision? How did he pull off the switch on the luminous right? That incantation wasn't public knowledge. What was his full story? Too many questions, and he knew only Levi could answer them. Not wanting to waste more of Lord Idris' time, he thanked him for the intel and was about to end the call. Before you go, can I add one thing? Sure. Regardless of what you decide to do with him, I hope you still give him a chance, Lord Idris said calmly. The boy may have swindled a recommendation letter, but I wholeheartedly support him and his brother. Why's that? Instructor Seraphis raised an eyebrow, surprised. He knew his old partner never got involved with new generations of daywalkers unless they were truly exceptional. While Levi's physical performance was impressive, Seraphis didn't think it would be enough to convince a Nightcrawler to sign him, especially if the truth came out. All I can say is, you've yet to see the best of him, Lord Idris said. The least you can do is let him finish the assembly. Whether he gets signed or not, you'll lose nothing. But he won't have to look back and regret anything. You know as well as I do, it only ends badly when a child is robbed of their only shot. Instructor Seraphis went quiet, then nodded. He understood. If Levi's condition came to light and he failed the assembly, it could leave him vulnerable, easy prey for the Nightcrawlers. And Seraphis had vowed, never again. Not under his watch. I'll see what I can do. Asterisk. Back in the apartment complex, Levi, Arthur, Jojo, Melissa, and Ryan were all gathered inside Levi's room. It was spacious and had a bedroom, a toilet, a small kitchen, and an empty central hall. The girls were sitting comfortably on the bed while the boys had no issue chilling on the floor. They had bottles of soda and some snacks placed at the center. While it wasn't a 5-star hotel suite, it was 10 times better than the rooms on the lower floors. I'm so envious. You guys have a kitchen stocked with food and a private toilet, Ryan complained as he recalled his cramped, bare-bones bedroom. Although he was ranked within the top 20, his room was nothing like this. The top 10 rankers were given these suites, while the rest had standardized 1-bedroom units and a stash of bland army rations to get through the day. You still did well. You climbed from the middle of the list to the top 20. Melissa offered support. It sounds patronizing while sitting next to a guy who came first after starting 3 minutes late. Ryan muttered, his eyelids twitching as he glanced at Levi. Don't think too much of it. Levi smiled. If any of you had a shield or something safe enough to slide on, you would have scored much higher than me. That's the thing. Jojo shook her head. There were chairs at the top for that kind of slide, and none of us thought of it. True. It's really hard to think outside the box during a race, Ryan admitted with a sigh. After the trial ended, everyone had taken time to review the gauntlet footage. They realized Instructor Seraphis wasn't lying. The chairs at the top of the slope were clearly set up to be used for something creative, like Levi's slide. While they had been bolted down, a bit of time and effort could have pried them loose. But how could anyone spare the time or focus to do that in the middle of a high-stakes race? Anyway, I'm just glad that Levi and Arthur came first and second in the trial. Ryan smiled, lifting his soda can for a toast. As long as it's someone from our little squad, a win is a win. A win is a win. Arthur and the others echoed the cheer, lifting their cans in unison. While everyone took a normal sip, Arthur downed his entire can in one go, then crushed it with one hand and let out a thunderous burp. Jojo responded by hurling a pillow at him in disgust. Ow! That tastes as refreshing as the real deal. Arthur sighed with satisfaction, casually placing the pillow under his but like a cushion, completely ignoring Jojo's irritated glare. The ultimate authority to create whatever. How magical, Levi murmured as he traced the shape of his water bottle with a light touch of his fingers. Chapter 70. 3 different perspectives. Levi knew that the boundless expanse was an enigma, just like its ruler, Nocturne. Even his name wasn't real. People only called him that because of the infamous nocturnal contract. The only thing confirmed was that his boundless realm served as neutral ground for almost anything, as long as the price was paid. Levi had no clue what the Solar Aegis Sanctuary offered in return for a week-long rent of a small zone within the expanse, but he suspected the government paid in crystallized seeds. As his thoughts wandered through the depths of this bizarre concept, Astra Ari pinged in his mind, informing him that Instructor Seraphis was calling. Levi wasn't surprised. He had anticipated this moment, expected Instructor Seraphis to dig into him after what he had pulled in both trials. After informing his brother and friends that he needed to take a private call, Levi quietly moved to his brother's room. He sat cross-legged on the bed and accepted the connection. A moment later, Instructor Seraphis spoke in a calm tone. Turn on the holographic call. I can't, Levi responded. Why? I have no lens on my eye. Why? Because I have no eyes, Levi said, composed and steady. Instructor Seraphis went silent for a beat. Then, Levi heard a sudden gust of air swirl from the right side. He turned his head instinctively, and through his spiritual vision, he saw it, a magnificent golden-haired lion radiating charisma and pride. Its mane was thick and regal, flowing like silk around its paws. Amber eyes pierced through the void, locking on Levi as if sizing up an unknown species. Its tail curled behind it, ending in a reversed cross of fur, resembling a double-edged sword. Then the lion spoke. Its voice was deep and solemn, the tone of a sovereign. So it's true. You are missing your eyes. Yes, Levi nodded. How interesting. The lion gave a small, entertained smile before vanishing from the bridge of spiritual darkness. Yet he wasn't gone. The moment his physical form faded, a powerful golden aura took its place. Instructor Seraphis had arrived. Hello, sir, Levi greeted, bowing slightly toward the window, where he sensed the instructor now stood. You can see me. Yes, my spiritual vision is a bit better than the norm, Levi explained. A bit. Instructor Seraphis raised a brow, surprised. Is this what Idris meant? He knew that even warden-level daywalkers couldn't casually see spiritual auras unless they were psych specialists. For someone Levi's age to possess a spiritual sense that clear, it demanded both extraordinary talent and relentless training. The realization only drew Seraphis in deeper. Since you're being honest, I assume you're reasonable enough to understand why I came. I do, Levi nodded. Good. Let's talk about what you did in the first trial. Be honest. I could have you disqualified for tampering. Instructor Seraphis folded his arms as he made his way to the kitchen. He grabbed a water bottle from the counter, leaned against the frame, and waited for an explanation. I used Astra AI to scan the Ithorian inscriptions, Levi began calmly. Then I went through them line by line until my name was called. I locked onto what I believed to be the most likely incantation and created a modified version to shift the test's focus. The real incantation wasn't accessible, but what I used activated part of the luminous rite. I got lucky. I see. Although Seraphis maintained a neutral tone, he was quietly impressed. He knew that parsing Ithorian required more than just intelligence. It demanded dedication and a deep grasp of an ancient language. Even if luck had played a part, Levi's analytical skill was beyond rare. How did you come to understand Ithorian at that level? My late mother taught me when I was young, Levi said softly. I became obsessed with it from that point on. Instructor Seraphis paused. He had read Levi's private file before this meeting. He knew about the murder of his parents at the hands of Nightcrawlers. He had prepared for this call, but hearing it from Levi still left an ache in his chest. She must have been brilliant. The smartest person I've ever known. Levi smiled faintly, a wave of old warmth passing through his memory. Is that why you're attempting to become a day walker despite your condition? Seraphis asked. Are you driven by revenge? Levi shook his head, which surprised the instructor more than he expected. My parents meant everything to me, and the way they were taken. I'll never make peace with it, Levi said, voice calm but firm. Still, I'm not chasing revenge. I just want to set my heart at ease again, whatever it takes. Is that too much to ask? No. I hear you, Instructor Seraphis murmured. He looked down at his sun amulet, fingers curling around it absently. It was rare for him to reveal any vulnerability. He was known for being stern, cold, even. But in front of Levi, he let that wall down. Maybe because Levi couldn't see his face, or maybe, just maybe, because he could tell that Levi understood. Levi listened to the subtle fluctuations in Seraphis' heartbeat. Slow, uneven, tinged with something unspoken. Pain. Something deep. Something jagged. He didn't comment on it. He knew that to sense the cracks in someone's heart was to peek into their sanctum, and he had no right to cross that line. A moment later, Seraphis composed himself again. As sweet as revenge may seem, just know it won't set your heart free. What's done is done, even if we hate to accept it. I'll keep that in mind, sir. Levi nodded appreciatively. He didn't necessarily agree, but he respected the advice. In Levi's eyes, the only way to know if revenge would free him was to follow it through. The agony, the grief, the endless rage inside him, they needed an outlet. And Levi would rather embrace a hollow peace than keep that storm locked away. Sensing Levi's inner resolve, Seraphis sighed. I see your younger self in him, said a deep voice in his head. I do too, unfortunately, Seraphis replied telepathically. Kshoba, I'm beginning to think revenge is linear, inescapable. You're looking at it the wrong way, old friend, the lion answered. Revenge is a survival instinct. It's a coping mechanism, nothing more. When someone has been dealt deep, irreparable harm, and no thought of revenge crosses his mind, his spirit breaks. Forgiveness, rising above it. Those are divine traits, Seraphis. You can't fake them, and you sure as hell can't expect a child to carry them when even you have failed. Seraphis fell silent. Kshoba was right, as always, and the truth cut him deep. He wanted to rise above his hatred, to purge it from his soul. But no matter how hard he tried, it still sat there, gnawing away at him like a ghost he could never exorcise. Kshoba didn't press further. He could feel his friend's burden, the slow decay of a soul trapped between the desire for vengeance and the pull of morality. Three perspectives now lingered in the room like ghosts. One who understood the need for revenge. One who longed to transcend it. One who chased it to reclaim peace. Each was valid. Each was flawed. If revenge had a single answer, it wouldn't be a timeless debate of the heart and mind. Eventually, Instructor Seraphis cleared his throat, and with it, shifted the tone. Let's get to the heart of it. If you're blind and contractless, how the hell are you able to move the way you do? He narrowed his eyes on Levi, watching his every twitch, every pause, waiting to catch a lie. But Levi only smiled. I think it's easier if I show you.